Hey, I'm Wally Adamczyk, president of Firestarter Speaking and Consulting, and welcome to Nothing Builds Itself, tips from the top construction-related companies in the United States. Today, New South Construction Supply with locations in North Carolina, South Carolina, and Georgia. Their bear logo signifies the aggressiveness and strength you can count on when you deal with them. Their slogan, know how, can do, makes it clear they have the know-how to provide customers with expert advice and a can-do attitude. The folks there like to say, the answer is yes. Now, what was the question? And that was exactly my experience when I reached out on LinkedIn to owner Jim Sobeck. This relentless focus on customer service is consistent with so many of the great places to work, as it gives everyone on the inside clear expectation of how to go about their business with everyone on the outside. As we open the conversation, we learn that Jim has seen a few things, and this experience serves him well, serves the company well also. His diversification efforts are a clear example of edge strategy, and it has paid off. Now, anyone can get lucky twice, but as a four-time recipient of the Best Place to Work recognition in South Carolina, Jim has his company tuned for success with an energized and motivated team. But he is not done. And towards the end of the conversation, he talks about his legacy gift to the company. Make sure you stay in for that.
I bought my current company, New South Construction Supply, and that was closed on November 1 of 2001, shortly after 9/11. Dealt with the post 9/11 recession, and then dealt with the Great Recession, and now dealing with the COVID recession. After the Great Recession, I thought I would coast into retirement, but didn't see this one coming. So, this too shall pass. So I just believe you play with the cards you're dealt, and you find a way to reassemble the cards into a winning hand.
How is this one different than the previous two recessions we've lived through?
Well, I mean, the 9/11 recession was due to an enemy attack. The Great Recession was certainly avoidable. The excesses in the banking, liar loans, no doc loans, it was craziness. But at least right now, the financial system is in great shape. We're stepping on the gas, not the brakes. I've hired additional people. I just got our first ever Kenworth tractor trailer. And so right now we're making lemonade out of the lemons. Yeah. We only did light commercial construction supplies. And there was a vice chairman at Owens Corning when I was there who spoke at a national sales meeting about why they had acquired Fry Roofing, the company I was with. And he said, a stool isn't stable with only one leg under it. And we only had one leg under New South when I bought the company. And we only had 5 locations. Now we have 9. And so we got into residential. I asked some of our salespeople, well, since we already have rebar and wire mesh and polyethylene and forming lumber, why aren't we selling residential builders? Oh, well, we just never have. Well, we don't need it. We have the same inventory that we need for those kind of guys. Go sell them. We got into industrial construction where we rent tilt-up braces for tilt-up warehouses, which are booming right now because all the e-commerce fulfillment centers are generally 1 million square feet or more. And you can throw one of those up in tilt-up construction in 6 months. And if you were going to do CMU block, probably a year to 18 months. So we have an industrial division. We have a road and bridge division. We have a restoration and repair business. And, along the coast, all these condos and high rises get eroded by salt air, and they're recoated with elastomeric coatings and recaulked around the windows and all that stuff. So we have 6 legs under our stool right now, and a couple of them are a little short and maybe wobbling a little, but it's not. But with multiple legs under the stool, we're going after a bunch of big tilt-up jobs, a bunch of road and bridge work. Our residential side of the business is up. I feel with the cash position that we're in and multiple legs under our stool that we're definitely not going to be setting any records, but we'll get through this. This too shall pass.
Hey, how many people are you employing these days?
Right now, between direct employees and temps, we're close to 100.
So you've been recognized as a best place to work in South Carolina. What was the impetus for pursuing this? Had you pursued it before?
Yeah, this is the fourth time that we've made the list, and there's multiple reasons for doing it. The first time, frankly, one of the things that intrigued me was it was only $875 for a 75-question survey. And I had talked to some other companies and had used some other companies in the past to do employee satisfaction surveys, and they were $2,500 and up. And I said, wow, it's a good deal. Even if we don't win, I'll get the results, and that's a steal. And if we do make the list, it's good PR. It's, for our image, it'll be really good. We have a really strong social media game. That's how we get almost all of our new associates. And so, we use LinkedIn's recruiter module. We're very active on LinkedIn. You saw me on LinkedIn. We're also on Facebook and Twitter and Instagram. And so I can't think of the last time I stroked a check to a headhunter.
So do you have like a social media coordinator, or is it just in the DNA of everybody there?
No, my daughter started her own firm right as this downturn was happening after 10 years of working for some of the biggest marketing and public relations firms in the country. She's a real pro at it, and she's done a great job for us.
So you did the survey the first time. And as you said, the knowledge is pays for itself, so to speak. What were some of those key learnings 4 years ago when you did it?
Well, and they've been consistent over the years. One of the things that warms my heart is the number one comment that's been made every year in the comment section includes the word family. That's a real family type business. We compete against a multi-billion-dollar publicly traded company. And I think that we've got to be different. If we're going to survive, we have to be David to their Goliath. So we do things like we have a hardship fund for people who have unforeseen hardships. We had a driver in Charlotte whose wife died suddenly at 39, and he couldn't afford to bury her. We paid for the coffin, for the tombstone, for the burial site, for the undertaker. And, you've probably heard the phrase, it's one of my favorites, people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. And so we do things like that. We've paid the deductibles and co-pays for drivers that have had hip replacements, for example. So, it does make me feel great to see that people appreciate that. The second biggest comment is how many people say that this is going to be the lifetime job for them. I've read that, my age group had 3 to 4 jobs in their career, and that millennials will have 7 to 11. Well,
and they say 7 to 11 careers.
Yeah.
One is different. I don't know where they come up with the stat, but it seems that way these days.
Well, we have a manager and training program where we do college recruiting before the tree gets bent and you can't straighten it out. We train them in our way of doing things. And our director of operations is 32, and he's been with us 11 years since he got out of Clemson. And Clemson's 20 miles away, so we recruit heavily from Clemson because it's easy to have interns from Clemson. And he's over all 9 of our locations at 32 years old. Our director of purchasing, we recruited out of Clemson 12 years ago. And he's now over all the purchasing of all the commodity products for all 9 of our locations at 34. 6 of our 9 branch operations managers are under the age of 30. So one thing that differentiates us from our competition is we have a lot of young blood. We had a company kickoff meeting in March, we came back from the kickoff meeting at Wild Dunes Resort off the coast of Charleston to shut down our showrooms. Yeah. But one of our suppliers said to me, how do you get all these young people? He said, I look at my management team, they're a bunch of old guys, male, stale, and pale. And we've got, diversity, male, female. Our manager of our most profitable location is a young black guy who's killing it. And I just told him it's not luck that we have all these young people. It's foresight, doing college recruiting, put them in a 12 to 18-month training program. They start in the warehouse. They have to get a CDL so when they run a location, if a driver doesn't show up, they can jump behind the wheel of a big rig and make a delivery. And so, the results of these surveys have been very heartwarming to see that what we're trying to do is working and is appreciated.
I'm gonna go on. I think it's pretty progressive for a company your size, 9 locations, to have an intern program. Do you think?
Maybe it is. My one thing I benefit from is having worked for a multi-billion-dollar company at Owens Corning, having worked for a company that was 630 million when I left, and that gave me some big chances at a young age when I was 27. So, I only really know one way of doing things. And one of the things that I know is you've got to have a bench. You've got to have a deep and strong bench, because there's nothing worse than you lose a key person, then you have no one on the bench, and then you're scrambling. So right now we have 5 managers in training that are absolutely killing it. Our director of operations sent me yesterday a chart. We do online leadership training that a industrial psychology firm we use in Atlanta put together. And these 5 young people are just churning through these leadership online training programs like they were getting paid to do it. And, it all starts with hiring the right people. I hate when people knock millennials. We've got great millennials. Not all millennials want to sit around and play foosball at work and, go to the coffee machine and make a latte. We've got people that were raised right, that their parents made them have summer jobs, and we have got a great team of young people. I'll put our young people up against anyone in this industry.
Well, and they're being led right. Anybody can recruit great people and make them bad. Do you have an HR person or function?
Yes, we have an HR manager.
What's her primary effort? Is it what does she spend her time on?
In processing new hires. We've been adding a lot of people. I mentioned, even during this downturn, we've added a lot of new people. Out processing, we don't have a lot of turnover, but we do have some, and it's mostly involuntary. It's people that, despite all of our pre-employment screening and using 3 psychological assessments and the Wonderlic intelligence test, I think we bat 500 at best.
Yeah.
I think without it, we'd be batting 250. But, when we make a mistake, we try to own up to it quickly. The 32-year-old director of operations let go a new manager in Charleston after 70 days because he'd made a hiring mistake. And I love the phrase, hire slowly and fire quickly.
Me too.
We make people go through a background check that I've been told makes the NSAs look easy, and then all the pre-employment screening, multiple interviews. But we make mistakes, and a lot of people don't want to own up to them for 2 reasons. 1, they don't want to look stupid that they made a bad hire, and 2, they don't want to have to go through the hiring process again. It's not fun reviewing a couple hundred resumes and kissing a lot of frogs trying to find a prince. And so a lot of people will live with mediocrity rather than deal with it.
Yeah. In addition to Wonderlic, what else do you ask the candidates to take?
We use the DISC, the DISC, and we use the TTI version.
Okay.
We use the Colby Cognitive Index, the KCI, and we use the Athene Quotient, the AQ. What I love about it is it shows 2 views of the person, work side and home side. And I don't know about you, but I just believe if you have trouble at home, it's hard to do your best at work.
When I speak about it, I go, hey, what happens at work goes home. What happens at home goes to work. And as a Marine officer, I learned I had to be very cognizant of that kind of a thing. In fact, it was my duty. It's a little bit more delicate here, but and we see that on the trimetrics and the TTI as well, and role awareness for sure. That's great stuff. That's certainly best of class. So as you get this recognition, does that help you attract people a little bit?
Yeah.
Tell me a little bit more about that side of it.
Who doesn't want to work for a winner?
Yeah.
It's hard to chant we're number 2, and it doesn't have a good ring to it. So
it's said by a Clemson fan, by the way. So
not really. I'm not. My daughter went to Clemson, but my 2 older sons went to Georgia Tech, and my daughter, I may not send her a link to this because she'll be upset. She knows Georgia Tech was my first love, and when she went to Clemson, we went to a few games a year. But you never forget your first love. And when the boys went to Tech, We just really got into tech football, and she did too. And she wanted to go to tech, but they didn't have a marketing media studies major because it's a tech school. But everybody wants to be with a winner, and Clemson's done an unbelievable job. Dabo Swinney building the program that he's built, and I also try to get lessons from everywhere. When you look at Dabo was never even a coordinator; he was mainly a recruiter, and they took a chance on him and they identified talent. And Terry Don Phillips was the AD then, and hats off to him for seeing talent and giving it a chance. Just like, I asked Clarence Bachknight, the CEO of Builder Marts of America, what did you see in me to send me out to Dallas at 27 to open this office? And he laughed. He said, well, I knew you were going to make a lot of mistakes, but I knew you wouldn't make them twice. But you were full of piss and vinegar, and I didn't know anybody else that would go out there and work as hard as you. And I've tried to pay that forward, and that's why I have such a young management team.
So are there values written down, or do I just kind of know what they are? What are some of the things that are the anchors for you guys?
Well, we have 10 brand promises in English and Spanish on the walls of all of our branches, on the backs of T-shirts of warehouse and drivers. I just think that you can't expect people through osmosis to understand what the core values are. So we have 10. And they're, like I said, they're posted on the wall at every branch. They're on the backs of T-shirts. We also, we do open book management. I'm a big believer in that. And I share the P&L, the balance sheet, cash flow statements. At our company kickoff meeting every year, we bring the entire company, because one of the challenges with 9 locations in 3 states is how do you build a sense of camaraderie when most people don't see each other often?
Sorry.
And so we go to a resort, and we go to a really nice resort every year. I've had drivers say to me, I hate this Southern phrase, but Mr. Jim, I've never been to a place like this in my life, and my wife and I got a couple's massage today. We pay for that, and golf and deep sea fishing and all this stuff to build camaraderie, and it's a lot of money, but it's worth it. And so we at the general session go through the P&L line by line, and people are always shocked to see how little is left after you go through all the expenses that we have, and then what is left that gets plowed back into the business. People think I'm sticking a few $1 million a year in my pocket. I wish I was, but the money this beast has to be fed. And when you're growing the way we've been growing, you have to constantly be pumping cash back into the business. And we have a strategic plan that I use. Have you ever seen the one-page strategic plan from Gazelle's Inc.? Ours is updated quarterly. We always drop off the oldest quarter and put on the fourth upcoming quarter. And I go through the strategic plan with everybody at the kickoff meeting so that they know what our core values are, what our short-term, intermediate-term, long-term goals are, what are the key values that we will never change, that we will not compromise on, what are our key areas for growth. And, I've had people come up to me after I've done that and said, I've never worked anywhere where people share all this data. And I said, listen, how can you do what I expect you to do, if I don't share the plans with you? It's like if you gave a football team a charge to go out and win a game, but only the coach had the playbook and didn't share it with all the players.
No surprise, but this is a theme in many of the best places, is that they share information at a significant rate. What's on your things to do list?
Well, right now is keep growing through this downturn, not use this as an excuse for failure. We only got into tilt-up construction about 1.5 years ago, and right now there's a couple markets that the forecasters that I believe do the best job are saying are going to grow despite this. And probably the biggest thing, though, is with me turning 65. When I was 60, I met with my advisors, my accountants and tax lawyer and estate lawyer, and we put together a plan starting at age 65 for me to convert the company to an ESOP. And so later this year or early next year, depending on cash flow, I'm going to sell a third of the company to the company, and then do a second tranche in 2 or 3 years after that, and then a final tranche at 70, and then they'll be rid of me. But that's also a great attraction and retention tool. There are some people that have hired lately that said, listen, I've had other offers, but nobody else was offering me the opportunity to be a shareholder and not just be an employee. So I don't want to load the company up with debt by selling out all at once. The Piggly Wiggly grocery store chain, which was based in South Carolina, did a big ESOP and loaded the company up with debt, and the Great Recession hit and they went under, and they were the first self-service supermarket chain in the country. And I try to learn from the mistakes of others. I don't like learning the hard way. God knows I've learned plenty the hard way. But if I can learn from others' mistakes, the big thing I learned from the Piggly Wiggly debacle is do it over a 5-year period. Don't load it up with debt. And then all these people who have been hard workers and loyal to me, they're going to end up owning the business, and the legacy will continue.
Is there an internal component to social media to communicate with the troops?
Well, internally, we had an intranet and people weren't really using it. So that's gone by the wayside. But right now we use Microsoft Teams.
Okay. So, I'm a driver, I'm a stocker, loader, whatever. Is there anything you throw out there on Facebook or Twitter that they access? Are you I guess, how do you keep in touch directly with those folks, or yes or no?
Well, we do a variety of things. The big thing every year is the kickoff meeting where we share all the goals. Then we do 2 managers meetings every year. We do them on Saturdays. Our salespeople are on commission. They don't want to give up a day where they could be making money to go to a meeting. And we go ahead and invite in all of the branch operations managers, inside sales, outside sales. So we do that. We do a series of awards. We do a Service Hero Award, which is awarded quarterly. It's a big plaque, but more important than I've read a long time ago, recognition's important, but recognition in cash is better. And we give $500 to somebody who goes way above and beyond. And so we have a variety of other things. All of the management team have the ability to give gift cards, to give night on the town, dinner for 2, those kind of things to people who go above and beyond. So we try to give spontaneous awards as well.
Is it safe to say when you compare yourself to industry peers that your profitability is a little higher?
More than a little. But, we have a great team, and we try to let them know they're appreciated. We've got a great team of people, and that's what it's all about. I call it the 5 Ps: people, 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 and products.
So did this philosophy come to you genetically, DNA, through the family? Where did you really develop this philosophy, or how did you really get it?
It's been a series of mentors, starting with my father. My father was a Marine like you, first wave at Iwo Jima and Okinawa, totally self-made man. And, he drove me very hard. He had very high expectations. And one of his favorite phrases was, there's 2 things in life: results and excuses. If you don't have the results, I don't want to hear the excuses. So, he made me very accountable as a Marine. You could imagine what it's like being raised by a Marine. Then I was lucky that my first boss out of college had played center at University of Delaware. He was about 6'1", 240, and, he taught me a lot. And then when I got transferred to Dallas, my boss there had played fullback at Georgia Tech, and you imagine that type too. He used to sign every memo back in the days of memos. This is my will and my direction. And he was a hard driving guy, but he also saw that I was willing to work very hard. I was on board with him about 7 months, and he said, I know you like to ski. Take Cindy to Vail for the weekend and expense it all. And so I learned that, if all you do is crack the whip, you don't keep people long. But if you crack the whip and also provide some carrots, the right type of people will respond to that. But I just had Clarence Bachnight at Builder Marts of America. He's 84 now. We're still close friends. He taught me a lot. He's the one who sent me out to Dallas at 27. So, great mentors, and I'm an incessant reader. I just believe, that leaders are readers.
So what's one of the better books you've read lately from a leadership perspective?
Well, lately I reread Good to Great, which I think is the best business book I've ever read. I love Jim Collins. I've read all of his stuff. Built to Last, I thought was a really good book. I've read a lot of books on, well, some of the things are obscure, but they come in handy. Like I've read 2 books on birth order. Using these tools for over 40 years, when I finally meet someone for a personal interview, I've already reviewed all of the assessments that we use, and I know them before they've walked in the door.
Yep. Yeah. It's not many firms that will go through that level of cost. And what is it? A couple of $100 of assessments. And,
That's nothing.
and
that's a dinner.
They wouldn't make a move without them, right? I mean, it's just amazing.
What's the cost of a bad hire? I believe, depending on the job, 1 to 2x their annual salary. And at senior level, it might be 3 to 5. Mm-hmm. Because most people aren't fully in the harness for about 3 years after you hire them. So I do everything I can to buy down the learning curve and not make bad mistakes, because they're very expensive.
Any other thoughts what question did I not ask you that I should have asked you?
You covered the waterfront pretty well. I'm looking at the list of things that you had sent me. You talk about what's happened to our safety over time. One of the best things that we ever did was about 3, maybe 4 years ago, we joined a captive insurance group, and they have a huge push for safety, and they have 2 safety seminars a year. And we send 2 to 4 people every time to every safety seminar. We've gotten super safety conscious. We've learned a lot of new safety techniques from them. So that's been something that not only helps your profits because your mod rate is lower, you pay less for work comp, but as an owner, I don't want someone's serious injury or death on my conscience. And so, while I certainly don't want to pay more money for insurance, that is secondary to, I just don't want somebody getting hurt or, God forbid, killed.
When I think about our time with Jim, words like driven, no nonsense, proactive, and progressive come to mind. But so do family, safety, and trust. Combine all these traits and you have a profitable company that enjoys low turnover, high productivity, outstanding safety, and is well positioned for growth. I think any firm would like to claim those benefits, but only those who are willing to invest and commit for the long term, like Jim has done, realize the benefits. Did you see the open book management and the aggressive use of assessments in hiring? Certainly not a standard business practice, but we hear this often from firms like New South. And let's not forget mentoring and investing in the next generation. There you have it. Words of wisdom and inspiration from Jim Sobeck and New South Construction Supply. Make sure you subscribe to this channel so you don't miss what's coming next. And make sure you check out their website. They've got some innovative things on that as well. I look forward to seeing you again on Nothing Builds Itself. But in the meantime, check me out at constructionleadership.com or connect on LinkedIn. I post in both places regularly, and I look forward to seeing you again. Have a great day.